Hi, I'm Andrew Rodriguez, and welcome to PsychoBible, battling about psychology and theology. So here we are, another year, and more chaos, more animosity, more racial tension, more tension about police and treatment of African Americans, people of color, more of the systemic racism narrative, more Black Lives Matter. And yeah, it just seems like we're back on this merry-go-round. There's several cases going on right now. We got Dante Wright and Makia Bryant, the boy in Chicago. And my standard approach to any of these either police shootings or cases of potential police brutality is to just wait. It's to have no reaction. And my mentality and my philosophy is cooler heads shall prevail. So I wait for the facts. That's the way I've always dealt with it ever since the earliest case I can think of several years ago that really started this increased consciousness about police treatment of minorities. So wait for the facts. And I think one of the blessings that has come out of this whole movement, and it's a bit of a double-edged sword, is police body cams. So more and more departments, it's getting to the point where that is the standard now, where police should have body cams. And that is probably the best thing for everyone. Now, at the same time, we're not given all the details because we don't know when the police officer is turning on their body cam. And there are plenty of times, I'm sure, where police don't turn them on, and they probably should. It would probably help them and help the public and the individual involved get to the truth. But hey, when we have it, I prefer let's see the body cam footage. Let's see any police camera footage. Let's see as much as we can. And in a lot of cases, people already made up their narrative before we actually get all the evidence. So I'd rather wait. If there's a lawsuit, then there's going to be discovery. So let's get all the evidence, and then let's find out the truth. But unfortunately, what I see happening, and this has been going on for years now at this point, is the narrative is being determined by the media and then activist groups. And really, there wouldn't have been these activist groups if the media wasn't playing up the racism angle. And because there's plenty of cases of police brutality or police using excessive force with individuals that aren't African American or other ethnicities, such as with George Floyd and the knee in the neck. That same procedure likely led to the death of Tony Timpa, a case from a few years prior that no one heard about until after everything George Floyd. So the thing is, we're seeing everything that involves a black person and police ends up making national news. Whereas if it was any other ethnicity, it would likely just be local news. And you would hear it in your evening news and forget about it the next day. There would be no riots over it, no protests, but because there's this highlighting of the police and being racist narrative, then I think that's what's fueled everything to get us to the point where we're at now. And I think a recent case, actually it happened in December of 2020, but we're only now hearing about it because the gentleman involved is suing the police. And so the information about it has just been coming to the surface now, or been made more public, nationwide scale. And that case is the one with Lieutenant Nazario in Virginia, where he was pulled over at night. It was around like 6 or 7 p.m. At a gas station, a BP gas station. 2 officers, weapons drawn. And we're going to go through the police footage. There's body cam footage of the majority of the whole ordeal. We don't get everything that led up to them pulling him over. So the body cam footage starts with them pulling him over. And there are some things that we can really learn from this incident. And when I say that, I mean that really all of us can learn. Those who support the police, those who are all chanting Black Lives Matter. There's stuff in this video that I think is important for us all to take a look at and understand. Okay? Okay, let's start with the first few minutes.
Driver, roll the window down!
Felony traffic stop.
Put your hands out the window! Put your hands out the window! Turn the vehicle off, put your hands out the window!
I can't tell.
Put your hands out the window and turn the vehicle off! Put your hands out the window!
He's not complying, Judge.
Come around your side.
Let me see your hands! How many occupants are in the vehicle?
What's going on?
How many occupants are in your vehicle?
It's only myself. Why are your weapons drawn? What's going on?
Open the door slowly and step out! Open the door!
I'm not getting out the vehicle. What's going on?
Get out the car! Open the door slowly and get out!
What's going on?
Get out of the car, now!
Open the door and get out the car!
Hold still, hold. Keep your hands outside the window. Keep your hands outside the window.
My hands are right here. What's going on?
Get out of the car now!
Get out of the car!
What's
now!
going on?
Get out of the car now! Get out of the car now!
I'm serving this country and this is how I'm treated?
Yo, guess what? I'm a veteran too. I know to obey.
That's
Get
not-
out of the car!
What's going on?
Get out of the car now!
What's going on?
What's going on? You're fixing to ride the lightning, son.
I'm sorry, what?
Get out of the car now!
What's going
Get
on?
out of the car now! Get out of the car!
Sir, just get out the car! Work with us and we'll talk to you. Get out the car!
You received an order. Obey it.
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I?
Yeah, you
ask
should be.
what's
Get out.
What's
Get
going
out.
on? What
Get
did
out
I
the
do?
car.
Get out now.
I have not committed any crimes.
You're being stopped for a traffic violation. You're not cooperating at this point right now. You're under arrest
For a traffic-
You're being detained. Okay, you're being detained for
For a
obstruction of justice.
traffic violation, I do not have to get out the vehicle. You haven't even told
Really?
me why I'm being stopped.
Really?
Get your hands.
Get out of the car now. Get out of the car.
Get your hands off me,
Get out
please. Get your hands off me.
You know what?
Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me.
Back up,
I
Daniel.
didn't do anything. Don't do that.
Sir!
Get out of the car
Don't do
now.
that.
Hey, sir,
Get out of
do
the car
that.
now.
Don't do.
look.
I'm trying to talk
Get out.
to you.
Okay.
I'm trying to
I'm gonna
talk.
talk to you.
Get out.
Just get out of my
Relax.
car.
Can you please
Get out.
relax? Can
Get
you
out.
please relax?
Get out of the car right now.
This is
Now.
not how you treat a vet. I'm actively serving this country, and this is how you're gonna treat me.
Back up, Daniel.
I didn't do
Back
anything.
up.
Whoa, hold on.
Hey,
What's going on? Hold on. Watch it.
Air 4 OCs deployed.
Get out of the car. Get out of the car now.
That's fucked up. That's
Get
fucked
out
up.
of the car now.
Sir, just get out the car!
I'm trying to breathe. Ugh.
Okay. That's an intense first few minutes right there. All right. And we're fortunate to have both the driver, the Army Lieutenant recording, as well as the recording from the officers. We got 2 body cams going, but as you'll soon see, the one body cam, I don't know if there's a malfunction or something. We only get mostly the junior officer's body cam for most of this video. But we got a few different perspectives, and that's helpful. And so I can see, first we see where the junior officer, the one who pulled him over, where he's coming from. You see, he pulls over, he still has the vehicle running, he's not complying immediately with turning the vehicle off, and then not immediately with taking his hands out the door or out the window, and then he's not getting out of the vehicle. Now you could be asking, well, why on earth are they asking him to get out of the vehicle? This is a traffic violation, he should not have to get out of the vehicle. So if you're watching this and getting all riled up because of that, I get that. I felt the same way. I'm like, why? Whoa, what's going on here? Remember, we're jumping into this at a certain point. This is not the beginning of the story, just the beginning of the video. So I had to remind myself of that while I'm watching this, because I am getting a reaction myself. I have been in situations with police where I get scared and angry and at least internally defiant. I remember one time back in my old hometown, which was pretty much a hick town, and I'm home from college, and this cop pulled me over for something that I know was bogus, and inside I just felt the rage as he gave me a ticket saying I did not stop at a stop sign before making a right turn, and I know I did, and the cop was nowhere around. So for him to make that claim was absolutely false. I fought the ticket. He didn't show up, as I'm sure he realized he was in the wrong. And so I got off the ticket. But I remember that feeling when that cop pulled me over, especially me growing up in an area that's pretty racist. And I felt that rage, and I felt that desire to do something stupid. Do something real stupid. So, thank God I had self-control. This lieutenant is remaining calm, but though he is remaining calm, he is being defiant the entire time. He's resisting. He's not following their orders. He's telling them straight up, I'm not coming out of this vehicle. Okay. So that ends up with them, the senior officer, who really comes on very hot and heavy, perhaps too much, and just does not tolerate the resistance from this lieutenant, and pepper sprays him. And that's where things change. That's where then he begins complying, still slowly, but of course he's in shock. So as we proceed, you'll see that he's just really shocked from that, and takes him a little while longer to still get out of the vehicle, but he's not really actively resisting. He's just, you can't see, he's in a lot of pain. When he comes out, then they tell him to get on the ground so that they can, I guess, standard procedure, best way to handcuff someone is have them on the ground and then lay prostrate. Prostrate. Lay flat on the ground so that they can cuff him behind his back. I was about to say prostate there, so I know that's not right. And he was resistant doing that, and there was a moment where, while he's resisting laying down, and he just got pepper sprayed, and I can imagine what he's feeling in that moment. Like, oh my gosh, they're going to have me lay down. I'm in the most vulnerable position ever. And he just keeps saying, this is effed up, this is effed up, this is effed up. And he's tearing up. I mean, obviously from the tear gas, tear spray, or the pepper spray tearing him up. But no, it's more than that. You just see how frightened he is. And it is a lieutenant. This guy, he worked hard to get to there. So he's got to be tough. But you could see he is terrified.
Listen! Take off your seatbelt and get out of the car!
Look, I'm just gonna please.
You're gonna do what you're told. Get out of the car!
Look.
Take your seatbelt off and get out of the...
Look.
Take your seatbelt off.
Look, my hands are out.
Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car.
My hands are out.
Don't reach in there, Daniel. Don't reach in there.
My hands are out. Please. Please, look. This is really messed up. My dog is in the back. My dog is choking right
Get
now.
out of the car! Take your seatbelt off! What are you, a specialist? Corporal, what are you?
I'm a lieutenant.
Lieutenant, get out of the car! Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car! You made this way more difficult than it had to be if you just complied. Get out of the car!
I'm reaching for my seatbelt.
Fine! Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car! Straight onto the ground! Straight onto the ground!
Ma'am.
Is your commanding officer available?
Down! Let's go!
Is your commanding
Let's
officer
go.
available?
Get on the ground! Get on the
Can you
ground!
please talk to
Get
me
on the
about
ground
what's
now!
going on?
Get on the ground or you're getting sprayed again! Get on the ground!
Can you please talk to me about what's
Get
going
on the ground! Get on the ground!
So see, he's trying to talk to them. Look, this is not the time to talk, unfortunately. I get it. Get where he's coming from. He's trying to be calm. But the officers, they have one concern. Contain. Detain and contain. So then you can talk afterwards. They want to make sure they're safe, because at any moment, even though this guy's pepper sprayed, they've seen enough stories where someone is pepper sprayed still fights back. Okay? They don't know this guy. So I guess standard procedure, get him out, get him cuffed, and then you can talk. And the whole time he is trying to talk to them as if they're ignoring their orders. So that's just, yeah, the senior officer here is just responding with more and more aggression and anger, at least in his tone.
Now!
Can you please talk to me
Get on
about
the
what's
ground!
going
Get on the ground!
Can you please talk to me about what's
Yes, sir.
going on?
You're not.
Can you please talk to me about what's going on? Why am I being treated like this? Why?
You're not cooperating. Get on the ground.
Why am I being treated like this? This is really messed up. This is really messed up.
Sir, what? Just
This
work
is
with you.
really, this is
This is part that kind of broke me, because you just hear him saying, "This is effed up. This is effed up." I'm just not going to play that part just because I don't want to have a bunch of beeping in my video. But you really see how terrified he is. Okay. So, this is not an easy video to watch. None of these videos are. But trying to put yourself in his shoes. You got these two officers with their weapons drawn, and then they're putting you on the ground when it was just for a traffic violation of some sort. That's terrifying. Okay? So, without knowing the whole story, just coming into this at this point, I am getting angry at the officers, and I'm feeling it. I understand where he's coming from, or at least I can empathize with him. Okay, so let's keep going.
Why didn't you do as we asked, sir? Why didn't you just do as we asked? No, you weren't. You were not. My partner put his blue lights on.
Yes.
You didn't stop.
I was pulling over to a well-lit area for my safety and yours. I have respect for law enforcement.
No, you don't.
And so,
No, you don't. No. Wrong answer, sir. If you did, we would not be in this situation right now.
Can
All
I
right?
get some water, please?
Absolutely. Sit it right on.
So he's saying the reason he did not pull over when they first flashed their lights at him was because he wanted to be in a well-lit area. for his safety and for theirs. Understandable. And he then says that he has respect for law enforcement. Now, the senior officer, he's ticked off here. And so he says, no, you don't. No, you don't. I can see why he says that, because his main concern, as the video plays, is that if he would have had respect, he would have complied once he stopped at the welded area, but he didn't. So he's saying that. But I'm not a big fan of people telling me what I think and telling me where I am on an issue. So if I was the driver and you're telling me that I don't have respect, that's an accusation. Any natural response to an accusation or criticism is to get defensive. So, not an answer that would have helped de-escalate the situation. Okay, but that's our first little tidbit that's our first little insight into what's going on in the mind of the driver and why the officer is as fired up as he is. Okay, so now paramedics have arrived and are helping him out, just getting the pepper spray out of his eyes so he can recover a bit. And he starts talking with the officer a little bit more, explaining what happened.
Can you please take the cuffs off me? There's nothing going on. There's nothing wrong. Come on.
Obviously there is, because you wouldn't comply with us. All we did is ask you to get out of the car. And you refused. You said, no, I'm not getting out of the car.
I was asking what was going on. My hands are out the window.
And we told you it's a traffic stop, and you refused to comply. So hold on. Before we get to that, my medics are still here. Do you still need my medics?
Yes, I want to stay here.
We'll stand by, man.
Okay.
We'll stay here as long as you need us.
So that's
So about how long does this take to wear off?
You just come out of rookie school. How long does pepper spray activate?
It'll take about 20 minutes, man. 20, 30 minutes.
It's just
The more, I'm telling you, I know it doesn't make sense, but the more you blink, the better it's going to be. I didn't believe the guys when they told me either, okay? But the more you blink, the better it's going to get.
They go through this stuff in their
very
training.
anxious. Can you please take the cuffs off
No.
me, please? I need to relax. Okay.
If you hadn't fought us, then yeah.
I did not fight you. Look, can you adjust this, please? So my wrist can stay together, please.
They can lock them.
Please.
When I take your arms out, do not pull away, okay?
I'm not going to pull away. I'm asking you to please work with me.
I'm going to work with you as much as you'll work with me.
My grandmother is retired NYPD.
All right, what do you want to do with this hand?
I want to twist it around this way. Yes.
I'm going to jump ahead to, there's just a lot of working with him to clear out the pepper spray effects. I jump ahead a couple minutes here to when they talk a little bit more.
You want to stop in a well-lit area because you're nervous.
Yes.
The whole BLM movement, you're probably nervous and all that. They feel the same way. They're nervous for their jobs and their lives. I get where you're coming from. They get where you're coming from. But let's let this pepper spray kind of wear off and stuff, and then just have an intelligent conversation with them.
Driving all the way down here. First of all, you passed the well-lit parking lot there, but okay, you felt more comfortable here, okay? Coming here was not the problem. That was not the problem. The problem is when you refuse to get out of the car, okay? You refuse to get out of the car. When we got here and you stepped out of the car, I can promise you, this would have been over by now. It'd have been over, you'd be gone.
Look, like he said, he's a vet. He don't want to get you in no trouble with your command.
I got a bunch of gear in the vehicle. I'm transferring units right now. My vehicle's loaded up with gear. Like,
Okay, well, specifically, he was asking about weapons. What kind of weapons you got there?
it's right there. I'm sure you saw it already. Right
No, I mean, you just got a handgun or you got a long
it's
gun?
a handgun.
No long gun? Where's it at?
I got it.
So he was armed. It wasn't just in the back like he was transporting it, but he has his own handgun right there on the driver's side, seat by his right leg. So, without knowing this gentleman, the officers do have some reason to be concerned, even though he wasn't drawing the weapon. He was armed. So, something to keep in mind. Let's jump ahead a little bit.
Can't.
Okay, do me a favor. Go ahead and have a seat on your bumper right there, okay? I don't want you to fall down. I don't want you to hold on. So just relax right there. Lieutenant, what happened? Why wouldn't you comply?
I looked out the mirror and I saw guns drawn. I put my hands out.
And we told you, we identified ourselves, we told you to step out of the vehicle, and you wouldn't. All you had to do was comply, and we'd have been done by now, okay? Because trust me, as far as...
He was scared. He doesn't know how else to answer the officer. The reality is he was scared. He did say that he was scared. But he pulls over, sees guns drawn, he froze up. So he resisted. Okay. In this segment, this really was the moment where I was like, okay. Now the junior officer, the one that we're mostly seeing everything through his body cam, he explains from the beginning everything that happened. And you'll notice here that Lieutenant Nazario does not dispute his recounting of the events. So it sure seems accurate, and this helped explain why the officers approached him the way they did. So let's watch this segment.
So, let's go all the way back to square one, okay? I turned around on you at Food Line. I actually came out of Cost Plus, and I came up behind you.
I saw you before you turned.
And you had no tags displayed. I see it, but per the law, it has to be in the license plate bracket. I understand it's paper, and I understand why it's there.
Yes.
But at that time, I had no idea. I didn't know that you had a vehicle registration until I approached your car. And at that point, I was too busy dealing with you to deal with the tag. You want me to wipe your eyes? Okay. So, look, all this was going to be was, hey man, I stopped you. You didn't have a tag. You got your driver's license. I'd have ran you, and you'd have been on your way. Okay? What would have been a 2-minute traffic stop turned into all this.
As I was telling him, you know, I've pulled over to well-lit areas before, and I've never looked out the window and saw guns blazing immediately.
So the reason we did that is because we followed you for 1.5 miles with lights and sirens on, and you didn't pull over. I understand you want to...
That's the key thing. 1.5 miles. That's a police chase, basically, then. If I had a car, a police officer with his lights on me, I'm going to pull over ASAP. It's happened in secluded areas. And even if I was looking for a well-lit area, they're telling him earlier, you already passed a couple well-lit areas, or one that they pointed to right there. Who knows, there are probably others. But for 1.5 miles, you tell me there's no other well-lit areas in that whole 1.5 miles before you came here? Without knowing the area, I find that hard to believe. But they did say, hey, there was one earlier that you didn't stop at. So, especially when, probably at that grocery store that they're just at, he could have pulled over right there if that's where he first saw him flash his lights. So, he pretty much, not a high-speed chase, but led them on a chase where they had their lights on him for 1.5 miles. That's a long 1.5 miles. So when you finally get him pulled over,
get to a well-lit area, a well-lit area. I get that, but when we follow you that long, look at the climate this day, and against everybody, against us, against y'all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not out to hurt you, and I know you don't want to hurt me. That's not what it's about. What it's about is making sure that everybody goes home at the end of the day. So when you don't stop and you continue to proceed, our suspicions are raised. What's going on in the car? What don't he want us to see? So you pull into here, and if you would have just complied with the simple commands that we were giving you originally, it would have been done and over with, and you would have got back on your car and you'd be gone by now. But you wouldn't get out the car, you wouldn't comply.
It just looking out the mirror and seeing your guns out already. That's what I was asking, like, what's going on? I was just,
and not to mention you have
just confused.
I know you weren't reaching, but not to mention you had a gun at your right leg. You get our perspective though on the safety issue for us as well. You get that?
Yeah, I do, and that's why I put my hands out and I was just asking, what?
And when you put your hands out, they were like this outside the window. How do we know nothing's in your hands? And I was telling you, stick your hands out, stick your hands out, stick your hands out. Then I was having you step out. You wouldn't do any of it. You following what I'm saying? Okay? So this can go one or two ways, okay? I don't want to hem you up. I'm going to be straight up with you. You're a good man. You've made lieutenant in the Army. How hard was that? That wasn't an easy task, was it?
No, it wasn't.
And what would this do to your career?
It would hurt it, and I'm in the middle of getting promoted right now anyway. So yeah.
To what, captain or first lieutenant?
To first lieutenant.
Okay. So, and then when we get you out of the car, we have to wrestle with you on the ground just to get your hands behind your back, just to put you in cuffs, just for the safety matter. You following where we're at? I mean, what would you do if you came across that overseas, you know? If you were infantry and you came across that. You following me? You see where we're coming from? I'm trying to work with you as much as I can. I would have never wanted, like I said, it would have been a simple, you know, hey, I see your tag now, you know, make sure you get it displayed in the proper spot, and you'd have been moving on with your day and I'd have been moving on with mine. But here we are.
How's your eyes doing, Lieutenant?
All right, and then the rest is pretty much Officer Gutierrez, the senior officer, comes over and just tries to smooth things over. He spoke to his police chief and gave the option of just letting him go or charging him. He's not going to charge him after that. He sort of presents it like, you can choose to be charged, or I can let you go. We'll stay with you until you can see again. And so Lieutenant Nazario is like, no one's going to ask for charges. So, but you could tell, yeah. Gutierrez there, the senior officer, really changes his tune. He really starts, ooh, I better de-escalate this. But everything there with the junior officer, Daniel Crocker, he explains where they were coming from, and it makes a lot more sense now. Why they were as on edge when they pulled him over, and why they were asking him to get out of the vehicle. Because, yeah, why would you ask someone, if it was just a traffic violation, to get out of the vehicle? And don't tell me it was just because he was black, because it's dark. They might not even know the race or the skin color of this individual. So all they know is you got a driver who is just letting them follow them for 1.5 miles, and when they stops, his vehicle is still running, and he doesn't turn it off right away when they command him to, and he doesn't stick his hands out of the window right away, and he doesn't come out of the vehicle right away. So each command, there is resistance. So now, since this incident, Lieutenant Nazario has sued the police department. Officer Gutierrez has been fired. The other officer is still on the job, at least at this point. But Nazario is claiming that they use excessive force. And as I was reading in an article on CNN, though one officer was fired, the police chief was saying that the actions of Nazario led to things escalating the way they did. But apparently the police chief believes that at least Gutierrez was too excessive. And as my wife and I were watching the video, we're like, yeah, he's coming on too hot and heavy. There are ways you probably could have de-escalated things verbally without having to get to the point of using the pepper spray. And I believe that. I believe that that was probably the moment where Nazario began to comply. Finally is when he got pepper sprayed, but even afterwards he still resisted. But he probably could have gotten to that point without having to use pepper spray. Perhaps. Without being an officer, especially being an officer in this period of time, where more and more people are resisting their orders, and there's just this sense that your life is on the line every time you pull over someone, because people are now getting more and more brazen with the police because of the narrative that police are systemically racist. So let me resist them, because now they're not going to fight back. They're going to be more hesitant to do their jobs. That's the sentiment that I believe a lot of police are facing right now. At the same time, you have Lieutenant Nazario, who, even as someone in the military who should be so tough and able to handle himself in different situations, and he does handle himself calmly, he is panicked. Though he doesn't show it externally, his resistance shows how terrified he is. So this whole situation, this case, highlights a couple different things. Let's talk about resistance. As a therapist, especially one trained by a psychoanalyst, I deal with resistance all the time. We just think in terms of resistance. Like, if a client misses an appointment, resistance. If they refuse to talk about a certain subject, resistance. It's what we discuss. It's the paradigm through which we see clients and their difficulty in session. It's transference and resistance. Okay? So, I had a situation with a client recently in which I was trying to lead him in a certain exercise where I asked certain questions about a memory he brought up, and there are certain questions I asked about that memory, and then I asked him to name a certain cognition, like, well, what would you rather believe about yourself at this time instead of that negative belief that you had, okay? And there came a moment when I asked him, okay, can you say that positive belief? Because then I was going to ask, how true does that feel? But instead of saying it, he started arguing with me. Like, I don't see the point. What's the point of this? What's the point of that? And I was like, okay, he's done this before, where he will sort of jump ahead of me instead of just going along with the exercise and then being like, I don't understand what the point of this was. He will begin to resist. So the following session, we were talking about that. And he was like, I think you thought I was resisting. I'm like, well, yeah, you were. Like, by definition, you were resisting. I was trying to lead you in an exercise. You could have told me you don't want to do this anymore. That would have been fine. But you were kind of arguing with me about what the purpose of that question was, or request. And so I explained that that's resistance. And he had difficulty accepting that that was resistance, because when he hears resistance, he thinks rebellion. Like as if me saying you are displaying resistance was me saying that he was being rebellious or defiant, malicious in some way, and just stubborn and disobedient. And so that brought up all these transference feelings from his older brother growing up who would bully him, and other experiences where he had this sort of impression of people in therapy being crazy and saying things out loud and walking around saying positive beliefs to himself. So that's my request, that he say the positive belief out loud, brought up those feelings. And so that made him feel like he was going to see himself as a crazy person for saying it out loud. So that brought up some of that resistance, and then me kind of persisting and like, hey, are you okay? Like, can you please say it? And badgering him in a way, at least the way he received it, experienced it, reminded him of his brother, who would basically torture him growing up. So what I explained to him is, resistance doesn't always mean that you're being rebellious for the sake of being rebellious, and that you just don't want the help. What it means is that perhaps I did something that triggered something within you that caused maybe fear or anger, and so you're reacting to that emotion that's been brought up, that's been triggered. And that turned out to be the case. So what I'm seeing in this video with Lieutenant Nazario is resistance. But it's resistance not because he's just a disrespectful young man, but because of the fear and the terror that has been triggered just by seeing the police lights. Then on top of seeing their handguns drawn. But their handguns wouldn't have been drawn if he hadn't resisted by driving for a mile and a half and then finally pulling over and then not turning the vehicle off when they first command him and then not showing his hands right away and then not getting out of the vehicle. So, or they probably had their guns drawn already before that point. Yeah, they did. So by being slow to comply with each of their commands, they're on edge, and all they're experiencing is him resisting their instructions. And his resistance was not just because he's rebellious. No, not at all. He was actually in his tone and his responses to them, though not necessarily his actions, he was respectful, but at the same time, he was not complying, and that is because of how scared he was. Why was he so scared? So scared and terrified that he had to make sure he was in a well-lit area, and that he just kept driving and driving and driving, probably passing other well-lit areas until he got to finally one spot. Why? Why was he that scared that he did that? See, I just did a teaching for a bunch of junior high and high school students on the purpose of our emotions. Why did God give us emotions? They're for our survival. And emotions indicate to us what we believe deep down, mostly at an unconscious level, about the state of our goals, our needs, our rights, our boundaries, our survival, essentially. All those things are necessary for survival. So, when you believe your life is being threatened, even if it's at just a very unconscious level, a fear reaction is going to well up. So if we want to evaluate our emotions, we need to get to the point of understanding and identifying and evaluating the belief deep down that is causing the emotion. And in Lieutenant Nazario's case, it is clear that deep down he has a belief that cops are not trustworthy, that they are prone to assault him, to use excessive force with him, to try to kill him. And the reality is, because of that belief, he got terrified, became non-compliant, which then prompted the police to then use more force, either in their tone or by drawing their weapons. And so it became a self-fulfilling prophecy that could have been avoided. And how did he get that belief? How did he get to that place where he believed that? I doubt it was from enough personal experience, but it was likely fed to him by the narrative of the media and the activist movement that's been increasing over the past several years, that really is not based on statistical information. It's based on every story involving police and a black person making headline news nationwide. The media is driving a narrative that is increasing the terror among minorities that should not be there, and thus they get terrified when they see a police officer. I was going through comment threads in different articles online, like I think it was a comment thread about the Dante Wright incident, and one black individual said they think we're animals. Police, they all, even if we comply, they'll still kill us because they think we're all animals. Like, this is the belief that he has developed. And with that belief, of course you're going to resist arrest. Better take my chances resisting than complying and just letting them kill me, because that's what he believes is going to happen. This is how we are terrorizing a generation of black children right now with this narrative that it's not even safe to comply with officers because they think you're just animals and they're going to look for a reason to kill you, and they'll make one up. And so now we have a generation and young adults and children of minorities that are going to be terrorized because they have this belief. So I think this case is a good illustration of the narratives that we use that become our ingrained beliefs, and how those cause particular emotional reactions that then lead to situations or increase situations that could possibly fulfill those fears, those beliefs that we have. So even if that belief is irrational, it can become rational because of our the way we act upon that belief. So when you really believe something, you will act on it. And when that emotion is there, it will drive that action. And that's just the tragedy of this whole situation. So I'm watching this video and I can see where the police are coming from. You got a person who led them down on a bit of a chase for 1.5 miles, would not comply. And so they're thinking, who knows who this person is? They might have a weapon. They might be pulling over, but they have their lights on still, so they might take off at any second. And so with their climate, where there's been like nearly 100 police killings in the past year, and we have a summer full of rioting where like whole swaths of citizens and mobs show that they despise police, I can understand why the police are on edge. And then when I have a person who is both Latino and black, who's on edge as well, who thinks, because of the narrative that he's been ingrained with, that police are all out to get him, and that they see his life as less valuable. Even another minority, the senior officer, his name is Joe Gutierrez, okay, living in Virginia, I'm sure he's experienced some racism himself. So, we've made it so that it doesn't even matter if the officer himself is a minority or a person of color. It's a term I don't even like to use, but that's the terminology we're using now. So even if they're non-white, I'll just say that, we just assume because they're a police officer that they're either a race traitor or they're just going to be arbitrarily violent and racist themselves. And it was so dark that we can't even say that they're necessarily racially profiling when they first pulled him over. They just know that you have some vehicle that was resisting and resisted when they first pulled him over. So tension is high. What we really need to do is cool down this narrative. Allow police to do their job. What they're doing right now, or what these police are probably experiencing right now, is so much fear about what's going to happen to them that they're probably wondering if it's even worth it to do their own job. You're probably going to get so many police now that are second guessing themselves whenever they have to pull someone over for a routine traffic stop. Is this going to be worth it? Oh boy, I just pulled over someone, they're a minority. Should I even bother? Should I do my job? Enforce the law? Because this could turn into something. And where's that going to lead? To more chaos. So what I see here is both sides. I can see why he's terrified, even though at the core of it, he's terrified because he believes a narrative that is not based on reality. It's based on distortion of reality. Because we're led to believe that police are all racist and that they are out to get every black person. That's the way I see it in the comment threads. Like they're out there hunting down black people, when it's simply not true. But if that's what you believe, yeah, of course you're going to be terrified. Of course you're going to resist their orders. You're going to freeze up. Even if you're not resisting out of anger and aggression, you're going to resist because you're just terrified and frozen. And I think that's, for the most part, how he was feeling. Now, he had enough presence of mind to turn on his own phone and record himself. And he seemed pretty control of himself. But there's an aspect to that was defiant, but also an aspect that was frozen with fear. So, this is the situation we're in. And that's just, there's no easy solution to this. But for maybe I think the best solution, the one I've experienced, is turning off the news. I don't have cable TV anymore. And I don't even get any local stations because we just get terrible reception if we just try to use our TV without any cable. And boy, not seeing the news just makes it a lot easier. I watch news reports, I read news articles, but not being subjected to all the latest reports, which all have spin. Because if you look up the news reports about this incident, they've got an angle. They have an agenda. They have a narrative that they're pushing. So I just show me the footage. I don't even want to read any articles. I don't want to spin. Let me go to the actual footage. It shows what happened. Let me make a decision for myself. As I'm watching the footage, I'm like, ooh, boy, I feel for this guy. I feel for this lieutenant. I'd be pissed off too. I'd be ticked off too. And scared as well. But then as you keep watching and you hear that Officer Crocker explain to him, here's what happened. That makes more sense now. Now I see why they were so angry when they first pulled him over. So, it's tragic, and we really need to see some change. Okay. So, pray for our nation. Pray for all our people. All our different ethnicities and skin colors. Pray for our police officers. Pray we find solutions that we can move forward with. Alright. Until next time, God bless.